What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittbite, the mini-series on the Fittdesign podcast where we take bite-sized pieces of the fit design, fashion design, sportswear design content you love and condense them down for you into easy-to-understand, bite-sized episodes. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the different types of shirt sleeve to consider for sportswear design. We'll be running you guys through the different types of sleeves, as well as the different types of classifications of sleeve lengths. In this short episode, we'll go over everything you need to know regarding what sleeve type to pick and what sleeve length is most appropriate for a specific design. We'll start off with the most basic sleeve type, and that's the set-in sleeve. This is pretty much the sleeve that you see on majority of garments that are available on the market, especially when it comes to sportswear design. This type of sleeve is a separately cut sleeve that is stitched onto the armhole. And usually when it comes to a set-in sleeve, you have minimal to no puckering between the sleeve pattern and the actual torso pattern. The set-in sleeve is an extremely simple yet popular sleeve type. It's very popular because of how versatile it is. It can be used in any context, and it can be dressed up or dressed down depending on how you construct the garment and what material you create. For example, you can use a set-in sleeve on something as simple as a split hem lifestyle tee. However, you can use the same sleeve construction pattern on something as fancy as a tuxedo button-up. I would highly recommend looking at the set-in sleeve as an option for your more casual items. When it comes to more performance-based items, you should definitely be looking at the next sleeve type that we're going to be mentioning, which is the Raglan Sleeve. The Raglan Sleeve is a sleeve construction pattern type that's constructed with a single seam that goes from the armpit, goes up and across the chest, and it hits the 3/4 side of the neckline. This is a sleeve type that is characterized by combining the shoulder and the arm portion of the sleeve pattern. The Raglan Sleeve is an extremely popular sleeve type for sportswear design because it creates a free range of motion because of its elimination of that shoulder seam that is characterized by the set-in sleeve, and at the same time it is a great way to incorporate a much more sporty look. The Raglan Sleeve actually gets its start in the sports space, used early on baseball jerseys because of its versatility and at the same time because of the comfort and range of motion it afforded its wearers. One thing to note about the Raglan Sleeve is when it comes to a like-for-like construction with a set-in sleeve, typically you'll notice slightly higher costs on the Raglan Sleeve. That's because you can't optimize the production or the fabric consumption for Raglan Sleeves as well as you can for set-in sleeves. Raglan Sleeves are characterized by larger arm or shoulder patterns. Because they're combining both the shoulder and the arm portions, you end up with a much longer sleeve length. For example, when you account for the sleeve length, and that's basically the sleeve pattern, the longest part of the sleeve, for a set-in sleeve, for size medium, you're looking at somewhere between 7 to 8 inches. However, when it comes to a Raglan Sleeve, when you take the entire or the longest portion of the sleeve, here you're looking at around 12 to 13 inches. That's simply because you are incorporating both the shoulder and the arm portions in a Raglan Sleeve. This is what creates a better range of motion, but you end up consuming more fabric and making it harder to optimize your consumption. Next, we'll look at the Epaulette sleeve. So the Epaulette sleeve is an extremely similar variant of the Raglan Sleeve. It's essentially the same construction type. It combines both the shoulder and the arm portion of the sleeves, where in a regular set-in sleeve, you'd end up having those separate and a seam across the middle. An epaulette sleeve gets its start from the military space. Actually, the word epaulette refers to the ornamentation that adorned military costumes. And that actually has a lot to do with the shape and the look of an epaulette sleeve and why I personally prefer them over Raglan sleeves in certain circumstances. Number 1, an epaulette sleeve, yes, is characterized with a single seam going from the armpit to the 3/4 line of the collar. However, the shape is far different. It's actually a much more structured shape and one that frames the chest in a much more masculine way. I highly recommend using the epaulette sleeve for men's items. They are a great addition and they create a much more structured and masculine look to the garment. When it comes to ladies' apparel, stick to the Raglan Sleeve. you're going to get the same result. However, you're going to get a much more curved and soft appearance out of it. Moving forward, we have a wild card, and that's known as the Yoke sleeve. The Yoke sleeve is somewhat of a modified version of the Epaulette sleeve. And instead of having the seam come up towards the 3/4 neckline, here we end up with the seam coming across the chest or across the back and combining both parts of the torso, the shoulder, and the armhole. A yoke seam or a yoke sleeve is characterized by its continuous appearance, and usually it's not uncommon to find a seam down the middle that actually helps to separate the left and right armholes. A yoke sleeve is a great option for sublimated garments or jerseys because it allows a continuous print to be done across the single pattern piece that combines the left and the right side of the armholes. I highly recommend looking at yoke sleeves to give a unique and to give a functional appearance to your garment. If you're going for a sublimation print, it can allow you to do some pretty interesting things of continuous prints that go across sleeve to sleeve. Do bear in mind that here you are dealing in with higher consumption for your fabric because you just simply can't fit as many pieces onto the same linear width of a roll. The pattern piece for a yoke sleeve in general takes up more space and it's tougher to optimize just because things are a bit more blocky and bulky when it comes to your pattern pieces. Something like a set-in sleeve has a lot more segmentation and you can simply optimize the positioning of your pattern pieces on your fabric roll better when cutting. Last but not least, when it comes to the different types of sleeves that you can look at for sportswear design, we have our dropped shoulder sleeve. This is an extremely popular streetwear look and it gives a very relaxed and oversized vibe. The drop shoulder sleeve is essentially a set-in sleeve where the shoulder portion is lengthened by a factor of almost 2. For example, if you have a 4.5 inch shoulder line for a set-in sleeve, you'll end up with something more like an 8 to 9 inch for a drop shoulder. Anything less and you end up with a hybrid that is in between a set-in sleeve and a drop shoulder, and you don't quite achieve both. So when it comes to going for a drop shoulder, you should go all in and make sure to give the appropriate length for your shoulder line. This gives a very relaxed appearance and one that is extremely popular in the streetwear space. We definitely don't recommend this type of sleeve on items that are fitted. You can end up with a very awkward fit and honestly an uncomfortable one. Go with an oversized or at the minimum a relaxed fit. This is the appropriate type of fit and one that's going to complement the sleeve construction perfectly. Now that we've discussed the different types of sleeves, we can look at how to classify sleeve lengths, starting off at the shortest. Here we'll be considering the distance away from the edge of the collar line. First, we have our sleeveless tee. Our sleeveless tee is a bit different than a tank top. A tank top is a pattern that's cut specifically to showcase or to reveal the shoulder blade and the shoulder muscles. However, when it comes to sleeveless, you're essentially taking a set-in sleeve and you're removing the shoulder or the arm portion. So you can expect the shoulder length to be somewhere around 4.5 to 5.5 inches, depending on the cut. Next, we have a cap sleeve. A cap sleeve essentially hits the center of your deltoid. Here, you end up with a much more militaristic and somewhat of a masculine look. It helps frame your shoulders and broaden your stance, but it's also not uncommon to use this type of sleeve, aka the cap sleeve, on ladies' items. Next, we have the extremely traditional short sleeve. The short sleeve hits anywhere around the upper portion to the middle portion of the bicep. A short sleeve is one of the most popular types of sleeves out there, and if you want to create more of a sporty appearance, usually you end up with a shorter sleeve length. Something like the Alphalete lifestyle tees typically hit right around the first quarter of the bicep. This helps to reveal the arm more, and it helps to frame out the arms in a way that is flattering to the wearer. However, you can easily have a great fit and a shoulder or a sleeve length that hits the middle of the bicep. It all depends on your specific use case scenario, but do know that there are some variations within the short sleeve genre or segment itself. Next, we'll look at the elbow length sleeve. This is not a very common sleeve length, especially on men's items, but on women's items that have more of a fashion appeal, it can be quite a great option. When it comes to the elbow length sleeve, you'll definitely want to keep it right at the elbow line, not exceeding it. You'll want to make sure that when your wearer bends their arms, that they're not getting an awkward amount of fabric hanging off the end, and that they're completely being able to cover the armhole, or the actual sleeve is reaching a portion of the arm that is appropriate for the elbow to bend comfortably without any excess chafing or rashing. Next, we have the 3/4 sleeve. The 3/4 sleeve is a very popular sporty look, and it got its start in the baseball space. The original Raglan Sleeve jerseys usually had a 3/4 sleeve length, so this is quite a sporty look and one that looks great on both men and women. Last is your wrist length sleeve. This is what you think of when you consider long sleeve shirts. Yes, we are saying wrist length here, but it is important to leave at least one fold at the end of your fabric. The reason for this is that not all size mediums have a size medium arm length. So adding a little bit more fabric at the end of your sleeve length will go a long way towards making sure that your garment fits a wider range of wearers. I always recommend making sure that you fit your garment on a variety of body types, and always leave a little bit longer. It's better to have more fabric than less, but do be considered in the amount of fabric that you're leaving. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy this Fittbite series and you want to see more bite-sized fit design pieces in the future. If you guys did enjoy it, please feel free to leave a comment below and rate this podcast episode. Your feedback means the world to us, and it keeps us going and it helps us improve. Thank you so much for tuning in to Fittdesign Podcast. Until next week, stay awesome.